Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're unraveling the absolutely thrilling high-speed world of downhill mountain biking. Look, if you've ever scrolled past those insane clips online of riders just literally flying down a sheer mountainside, you know exactly what kind of wild energy we're talking about today. It's a sport that blends raw speed, incredible technical skill, and a whole lot of precision. So buckle up, because we're going to deconstruct exactly how these athletes manage to conquer gravity.
Okay, let's dive into this. Picture it. Steep mountainsides, launching off massive jumps, navigating absolute rock gardens at speeds that honestly shouldn't be possible on a bicycle. You immediately get a sense of the visceral, extreme reputation this sport has, especially to anyone looking from the outside in. I mean, it looks like pure, unadulterated chaos, doesn't it? It just looks like an adrenaline rush where the only real goal is to somehow survive the ride down.
But, that leads us directly to a really important question. So, what does this all mean? Is downhill riding actually more than just going fast? Because it is so easy to look at that adrenaline stereotype and assume it's just about having zero fear. Just turn off your brain and go, right? Well, actually, scratch that. The reality is completely different. This is a highly technical, incredibly specialized discipline. It requires an immense respect for the trail, hyper-specific equipment, and highly, highly refined technique. It's truly a calculated science of speed. At its core, downhill mountain biking, or DH for short, is a pure distillation of the sport. The entire focus here is exclusively on descending steep, technical trails as quickly and as efficiently as humanly possible. Unlike going out for a scenic weekend trail ride, every single ounce of energy in DH is dedicated to navigating downward. It's literally all about conquering gravity. And honestly, the sheer brutality of the terrain these riders face is just mind-blowing. We are definitely not talking about smooth dirt paths here. A typical DH trail throws basically everything at the rider. Incredibly steep descents, huge jagged rocks, super slick route sections, massive drops, ledges, man-made jumps, big bank turns called berms, and super tight switchbacks. And the goal isn't just to sort of roll over these things to survive. The goal is to maintain absolute total control while navigating all these natural and man-made obstacles at top speed. As you'll see, surviving this requires incredibly precise bike handling. Section 1. The Hack. Conquering the Climb.
Okay, so here's the thing. You obviously can't have a massive descent without getting up the mountain first, right? So how do riders get back up? If their bikes are built exclusively for pointing downhill and the trails are completely exhausting, how are they resetting for the next run without burning out?
Well, the answer is actually a surprisingly practical hack. They just avoid the uphill entirely. Yep, one of the biggest differences between downhill riding and pretty much all other forms of mountain biking is that DH riders typically do not pedal uphill. They use mechanized transport. We're talking ski lifts that have been adapted to carry bikes, shuttle trucks driving up mountain access roads, or dedicated chairlifts at bike parks. They literally hitch a ride up so they can save absolutely every ounce of their physical and mental energy for the brutal descent back down.
Section 2. The Machines. Purpose-built for gravity.
To even survive these massive descents, there's an absolutely crucial metric you need to understand, and that number is 200. 200 millimeters. That is the massive amount of suspension travel a typical downhill bike is packing, and often it's even more than that. To put that into perspective, that is a huge amount of squish. This long travel suspension is engineered specifically to act like a giant shock absorber, taking the violent, heavy impacts of landing jumps and slamming through rock gardens at high speeds, so the rider's body doesn't have to.
Let's look at the rest of the anatomy of a DH bike, because it's fascinating. Alongside that massive suspension, you've got these incredibly heavy-duty frames built to withstand literal beatings. You have ultra-powerful hydraulic disc brakes, because frankly, stopping power here is a matter of life and death. You've got wide tires with super aggressive tread patterns just to grip the loose dirt, and they use what's called slack geometry. This basically means the front wheel is pushed way out, which intentionally leans the rider further back. It totally ruins the bike for climbing, but it provides absolutely essential stability at high speeds. These machines completely sacrifice going uphill in favor of absolute maximum durability and control on the way down.
Section 3. The Human Element. Armor, Risk, and Skill.
Now, because the reality of this sport's risks requires some serious, deep focus, we have to talk about downhill armor. And I mean literal armor.
Because let's face it, crashes happen, and when they happen at DH speeds, they are intense. So this extensive protective gear, it is completely non-negotiable. Riders wear full-face helmets that look a lot like what a motocross rider would wear. They strap into rigid chest and back protectors, heavy-duty knee and elbow pads, gloves, and protective goggles. All of this safety equipment is absolutely fundamental to making sure they can walk away from a mistake.
But here's the catch. Throwing on that gear is really just step one in a very systematic approach to managing danger. While the sport is inherently dangerous due to the crazy speeds and massive obstacles, it's actually highly calculated. These athletes don't just wing it, they manage their risk methodically. First, they wear the appropriate gear. Second, they progress gradually. You don't just show up on day one and launch yourself off a cliff drop. They take lessons or skills clinics to learn the actual mechanics safely. They strictly stick to riding trails that are appropriate for their current skill level. And lastly, they meticulously maintain their equipment. Managing risk isn't an afterthought, it's a core, required part of the whole downhill experience. And that's because surviving a full run takes years of refining a very unique, intense combination of skills. Physically, you need incredibly strong bike handling, just flawless balance and body positioning, and highly effective braking techniques. But mentally? Oh man, mentally you need lightning-quick decision-making abilities. You have to maintain total confidence while staring down terrain that is so steep you would literally struggle to walk down it on foot. It is this beautiful, wildly demanding mix of physical mechanics and split-second mental sharpness.
Section 4, the showdown, downhill versus trail riding.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how extreme DH is compared to your standard mountain biking. The differences are just stark. Trail riding is balanced. You climb up, you descend down, covering long distances on lighter bikes with less suspension and wearing moderate protection. Downhill riding, it is a short, incredibly intense, pure gravity-focused sprint on a heavy, purpose-built machine with the rider covered head to toe in extensive armor. They are completely, totally worlds apart.
Section 5, the resolution, the pursuit of flow.
So, if this sport is so intense, requires you to wear heavy armor, demands these massive, expensive, specialized bikes, and carries very real physical risks, why on earth do riders voluntarily subject themselves to it? Well, the answer is the psychological payoff. Beyond the pure adrenaline rush, the true addiction for these athletes is something called flow. Flow is the state of total, unwavering concentration. During a downhill run, you are reading the terrain instantly, you're reacting without even hesitating, and you are completely trusting your refined skills. It demands absolute, total physical and mental engagement. In that fleeting moment, the rider and the trail basically become one single entity.
I want to wrap up our explainer today with this really inspiring thought straight from our source material. As intense and extreme as this sport looks to us, quote, every expert downhill rider started exactly the same way. One trail, one turn, and one ride at a time. End quote. It is a wildly intimidating sport, for sure, but it is ultimately accessible through careful, incremental progress. So the next time you see a rider drop into one of those seemingly impossible, gravity-defying descents, ask yourself, is it gravity pulling them down, or is it flow pulling them forward?